Hello, this video will just give a brief overview of the scene builder for JavaFX. The first step is obviously to download it. You can do it from this address here. Click the download, which will just scroll down, and then you can pick your installer for whatever operating system you have here. And then once it has been installed, you can run the scene builder and it opens up to this view here. I can see my recent projects. I have played around with it a little bit, and then we have different templates just to give you different examples of what you can set up. I'll just start with the empty one, and then in a later video I will look at one of the other ones. So there we have different areas that are interesting. So we start over here on the left side. I have all the UI elements, and you can see it's in this kind of stack frame or accordion. If I drag this down, I have all my containers, so all the different panes, they are organized in here. I can select an anchor pane, just drag it out. I can put an H-box inside there. Maybe I want to make it slightly larger, like that, something like that. There are different kinds of panes. They're all in here. We have controls, so these are your buttons. Let's say I want a button, I want a checkbox. I can just drag this out. This was an H box, horizontal, so everything I drag out will just be put horizontally next after each other. That's the label, different sliders and different text areas. So most of your input is in here. Then you have the glue on. I think this is for mobile. So if I drag this out, it will give me a warning about something mobile stuff. So just, you can see they are blue to show that they are somehow different. Not entirely sure about those details, but I think it's easy to just stay away from them. You can see there are duplications. So if I look for the text field, I get a blue one for the glue on and a gray one for the normal one, desktop apps. Don't open this. These are menu items. So up here I have menus, right? And they are, that's what you find here. One of the other templates that you saw when I opened the scene builder shows an example of how to set up these menu items. There's a scene and a stage and other stuff. Usually these are created in the code. That's usually how I do it. I think the canvas, you can draw on this. I'm not entirely sure. We get to the more obscure stuff that I haven't used. There's something about shapes. I don't know. Maybe those fit onto a canvas. We have charts, different kinds of charts. You might need these. And then there's some 3D stuff. I haven't used this either. That's all your elements that you can put into your UI. Then we have here the hierarchy. That's the scene graph basically. You can see the anchor pane, you can see the boxes inside, and the H box has elements inside. So this is where you have an overview, and I can right click something which can be deleted, or I can select the parent, which is, I don't know, sort of irrelevant. I can wrap this in a something else. Let's put a flow pane. You will notice that my label will get nested under a flow pane. Sometimes this is useful, right? Like this, undo. If I do it with multiple, then it's easy to just say, okay, I want these grouped together in a VBox, like this. Then we have the controller. For each fxml file, you will define a controller, and that controller is a Java class that handles all the behavior for the UI. So everything that you can do, this is where you define the methods that should be called when you click a button. I can click a button, and then a method should be called. So that belongs in the controller class. So I give it a name, example controller, and then the fxml file, when I save this, will have a reference to a class that's called example controller. Then on the left hand side we have other things. These are per element settings. So if I select the checkbox, I get something. Well, it's the same options, but still you set options for the button now, and then for the checkbox, and there's another label. So let's see. The first one is about some layout. You have the font, the text, color, size, should it align with left or right side and so on. There's some alignment stuff. I can make it slightly see-through, transparent. You can add CSS style. I don't know how that works yet. Maybe I will learn someday. Accessibility help. I guess this is maybe if you mouse over or something. Not entirely sure. So you have some settings over here about the styling of the button. Then you have some layout. So that's the sizing and where it's placed. So you can add margin. If I put some margins on here, you should see that the button is moved, right? It makes some space around it. The padding, it's the same ideas as when you do HTML and CSS. You have some sizes. So sometimes I might resize the window when it's running, and then I can set some, what would I like the button to shrink or grow as a preferred size. The computed is just, you know, if I change the text, I can do that here. Click me even more, and we should see that the button scales in size. So now that means it's button. The computer size is just based on what is required to show the text. But I could probably set it to something else. Right, now I'm forcing it. Okay. There's some position, maybe I can change this, hard-coded. Not entirely sure. It sort of depends on which pane I am using, because the H-box has a predefined way of organizing things. So I think if you use an anchor pane, if you put the elements directly in an anchor pane or just a normal pane, you might be able to use these positions. I can rotate stuff. Whee! And maybe put it back. And there's some more rotation and scaling. Can we make it super large on the X? Yeah, great. Doesn't look amazing. So let's just revert. Translate, that's also moving it. Stuff, I don't think I have ever scrolled this far down, so I don't know. Then there's the code. So generally we want to tie our UI elements to some piece of code, and that's this tab here. So first, if I want a reference to the button from my code, that's the controller, I need to give the button an ID, and then I will create a matching field variable in my controller. I will show that in later videos. So this is a click me button. I will call it like that. So then there's a warning that my controller does not have that, because I've defined a controller but it couldn't find that apparently. Assigned if, I don't know, usually I fix that afterwards. Then what is the name of the method that should be called when I click the button? On click me button pressed do this method. Super fast. Right, so now I need to create a method in the controller class that has this name. Again, we'll see later. And then you have all the other events that can be activated. We can see I can do something when I'm trying to drag the there is a lot of actions or events that you can say, I want a specific method to be called when some event happens. Here's some touch stuff for mobile devices or tablets or whatever. This JavaFX framework is also supposed to be used or usable for mobiles and tablets, touchscreens, that kind of thing. Okay, last thing I want to show is a preview tab. This will basically render your UI and allow you to interact with it. There's no behavior, obviously, there's no code behind the buttons, the check marks and so on, but it still gives me something to play with. Okay, that's enough for this video. That was a super quick introduction. I encourage you to just explore yourself, explore the scene builder by yourself or in a group. Don't touch yourself. I don't know. I'll stop here.